Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey, I'm Alex Stevenson. This is Jake Face. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. If you're new to the show, we are a podcast that talks about standard constructed, usually F&M, our F&M results. If we have time, we talk about the most recent Star City standard results. And we also talk about our website, seemsgoodmagic.com. And there you can find Born of the Gods drafts, cube drafts from Randy. Occasionally articles are written by fans. We also do a Seems Good Magic card giveaway where I give away a free card every week. Yeah, so check out seemsgoodmagic.com. Email me at mortarpod@seemsgoodmagic.com. If you have any comments or any requests, anything like that, happy to communicate with you about that. So let's dive right into it. I'm going to talk about what I'm playing in Standard Constructed and my F&M results this week. So I'm playing the White-Red Burn deck, which has gotten a little bit more popular in the last couple weeks. So my list is 4 Chandra's Phoenix, 4 Ash Zealot, 3 Toil and Trouble, 4 Magma Jet, 4 Lightning Strike, 4 Searing Blood, 4 Skullcrack, 4 War Leader's Helix, 2 Chain to the Rocks, 4 Boros Charm, and then I've got 2 Boros Guildgate, 4 Temple of Triumph, 4 Sacred Foundry, 4 Mutavault, and 8 Mountains. So the only creature threats in the deck are just Chandra's Phoenix, Ash Zealot, and Mutavault, which is in stark contrast to my last red deck, which was very creature-heavy, aggro, Burning Tree Emissaries, and Gorehouse Chainwalkers, Cacklers, and stuff like that. So I like this list a lot more after playing it for a couple weeks. It's really fantastic. I think most of the lists in the tournaments are running 3 Shocks at least main deck, but I think mostly that's for the green-white aggro lists. They want to be able to shut off the experiment ones and maybe the Voice of Resurgences, at least on the front end. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why they main deck the Shocks, but we just don't have any of that in our meta. And it's really not necessary, I feel like, most of the time, because you've got the Magma Jets and the Searing Bloods, you know, which punish them in different ways anyway. Magma Jet, fixing your deck, it's a very essential card for this, to find enough, you know, burn spells to kill them.
Yeah.
Or Searing Blood, which knocks out most of the aggro 1 and 2 drops in the format. So I really like the list a lot. Usually it only takes about 5 to 7 spells to toss them at their head and they end up dying. My sideboard that I changed for this F&M was 2 Wear and Tears in the sideboard. I took out Shocks and I put in Wear and Tears. So last week I lost in top 8 to a Naya Hexproof deck, which turns out main deck Unflinching Courage is very good against us. So especially with Hexproof creatures, so we can't deal with them. So I figured Wear and Tear was a good way to stop the Unflinching Courage. I also have 4 Fire Drinker Satyr, 3 Vyashno First Blade in the sideboard, and that's for the control matches. I take out the Chain to the Rocks, and I take out the Searing Bloods, and I take out 1 Chandra's Phoenix, and I add 4 Fire Drinker Satyr and 3 Vyashno First Blade. First Blades are very, very good in the control matches. 2 Spark Troopers are also on the sideboard. That's for the mono blue devotion lists and the red-green monsters list. You can even do it against the black-red aggro decks. They usually tap out playing haste creatures, so cracking back with a 6/1 lifelink. Doing a 12-point life swing for 4 mana can totally change the outcome of that game and throw off their math a huge amount, especially if you do like a follow-up War Leader's Helix the next turn. It's like just an insane amount of life swing.
Yeah.
I also do 2 Mizium Mortars sideboard, which for next week I think I am going to main deck them over the Chain to the Rocks. Main deck Chain to the Rocks is a lot better if you have monsters lists or mono blue devotion decks in your meta. But we don't have a ton of it right now, just a little bit. So I like the Mortars more for taking care of main deck Blood Baron of his Copas and just stuff like that in general. I also have another 2 Chain of the Rocks on the sideboard in case Monsters pops up again or any other list where I would need Chain of the Rocks. That is the dilemma with Chain of the Rocks versus Blood Baron, though. It's not an actual out for the card, nor is it an out for Obsidian. So it's kind of like Chain of the Rocks is good in certain metas, but in ours I don't think it's that good, at least main deck. So I'm going to go through my lists or my matches from Friday. Round 1 I played against a America White Devotion deck, and this is, we've maybe talked about the Mono White Devotion list a little bit. It hasn't been big in top 8s, but this one was using a lot of the core of that Mono White deck, but no Angel of Serenities, but it was doing the Boros Reckoners and Precinct Captains with Nykthos to generate a lot of mana, with Heliod as well, the god. So, it's very good. It's a cool deck. This one's doing Sphinx's Revelation to capitalize on the mana ramp, and Zoria's Charm, and stuff like that. So, it's a good list. I beat it with a Skullcrack in response to a Sphinx's Revelation 4/6. So that was a pretty brutal game 1. And then game 2, it was like a war of attrition where I was just getting there with a Chandra's Phoenix and he was trying to beat in on me on the ground. And it just sort of, I tied up his board long enough where I got in the damage I needed to with Chandra's Phoenix and burned him out. It was still a close game though. So I beat that 2-0. Round 2, I played against the Naya Hexproof list that I lost against last week in top 8. And I lost again 0-2 this week. So I got mana screwed game 2. I kept what only was going to be a crappy hand if I didn't draw land, and I didn't draw land. So it was a 2-mountain double Skullcrack, like Lightning Strike. Like it had all the burn, but it didn't have the white source or any more than 2. And I just stopped at 2 mana. Both games he got into turn 3 Unflinching Courage, which is just, you know, the worst thing that we're going up against with the Naya Hexproof deck. So I think I just need to change the sideboard slightly. Let's add some more wear and tears. If it's my worst match, I just need to be more prepared for it. And I think I can do that. And leaving into the Chain to the Rocks, I think there is good because you can still stop the Voice of Resurgence or the Fleece Mane Lion and Gorkland Rampager if he ever plays it. So, you know, the Naya Hexproof deck is very good. Very good against us in particular. I don't know how good it is against the Control since you have Supreme Verdict, but they probably don't need to go much deeper than 2 cards. Like a 1 Hexproof guy and a Madcap Skills can get pretty far against you. So yeah, that's a tough match. I think I can beat it. I just need to come up with a good plan for it. We had talked about Renounce the Guilds being a new sideboard option, and I'm going to try that also for next week. Probably going to, I don't know, maybe take a Chain to the Rocks out of the sideboard and try Renounce the Guilds instead. Just having more outs, having an actual out for Obsidian in a deck like this we had talked about is really good. Renounce the Guilds, by the way, is from Dragon's Maze. It's a 1 and a white instant. Each player sacrifices a multicolored permanent. So some of the things it stops are like Boros Reckoner, Nightveil Spectre,
Obsidian and Blood Baron both.
Some of the new gods, Afara, Mogus. Obsidian and Blood Baron, yes, being the key ones. The reason to really run them, to run the Renounce.
Stopping Obsidian is really key.
Very, very difficult for this deck to do.
Instant speed. The need to do it at instant speed is really, you know.
White Sacrifice, too. Very unusual. Celestial Flare is another example, but it's just nice that this one only comes at the cost of 1 white, since we're pretty much splashing white. You know, for just burn spells and stuff. So, not even bad in the Naya Hexproof match, because they could have to sacrifice Unflinching Courage, or they may have to sacrifice Voice of Resurgence, or the Elemental Token if they have that, or the Gorkland Rampager. There's actually a lot of multicolored things they're running. Round 3, I played against Black-White Midrange, and this is a good list. This is one in particular. It's running Obsidians and Blood Barons. In addition, this list was main decking Duresses with Thoughtseizes. I don't know how many of each. Maybe 1 Duress main deck with the 4 Thoughtseizes or something. I'm not exactly sure. But it was a good main deck choice for our meta. A lot of mid-rangey, sort of spell-heavy decks. And I think he turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Duress me with a Scryland turn 2. So that was pretty good. I mean, taking out 2 burn spells is pretty huge. Thankfully, Thoughtseize isn't that great against us since we're, trying to burn them out anyway. Can almost help us along. He ended up shocking himself on turn 5, so he was able to play an Obsidian, and I was able to Skullcrack him in response. And that was enough to just get there. The shock compounded with the Skullcrack. We had talked about how important Skullcrack is for the deck. It's essential to stop, the control with the Sphinx's Revelations or the mid-rangey decks with their life gain. So being able to stop that and getting a burn spell out of it is very good. I think it's really the unexpectedness of it. Or even if they're expecting it and there's no way to stop it. Because, with Sphinx's Revelation in particular, the only way that you'd need 8 mana to be able to Sphinxes for 3 and still leave up Negate or something like that. Or 7 mana if you want to do Swan Song or Dispel. So it's just really difficult to stop the Skullcrack because it only costs them 2 mana. Whereas
Sphinx's Rev isn't what you rely on really against the Skullcrack. It needs to be cheaper, and it needs to be really efficient and happen early on when you're doing nothing anyway as a control player.
It's true. I think Sphinxes is not good enough against this deck, which is amazing for this deck. An amazing tool this deck has, being able to stop Sphinxes, since that's the backbone of control. So I beat the black-white mid-range deck 2-1. It was still a very close match. Could have gone in either way. I think he duressed me game 3 on a mull, and he saw I had a hand with 2 Searing Bloods, a Lightning Strike, a Boros Charm. It was just all this good burn, and he had a Pack Rat in his hand, so it's he had to take a Searing Blood so he could eventually pay the Pack Rat. He was kind of in a tough spot. He knew he couldn't afford to wait too long. He needed me to, want to kill his Pack Rat. Like I said, this deck's very good against Pack Rat in general. It usually can race one. So Pack Rat not that good, which is nice since, a lot of the core of the mono black devotion or black whatever decks are Pack Rat right now. That's just the win con for black. Or one of them.
Yeah, it definitely gets big fast, but just throwing one burn spell at one thing like a Mutavault activation or Searing Blood really is what it comes down to.
Yeah, Searing Blood just shuts off that plan. It just punishes too hard. Too much of a setback too early for them. And I think it gets really difficult for them to recover. Round 4, unfortunately, I had to play against Jake, and we were both 2-1 going into round 4. So he was the 7th seed, and I was the 11th seed. So if we had drawn, there was a chance Jake would get in, but there was no chance I was getting in. So we had to play it, and I'm well geared in that match because I'm main decking the Toil Troubles, and I beat him 2-0. Mainly because Jake's is more of a Planeswalker control deck. He's running cards like Ashiok, which are very good in mid-rangey or
even slightly aggro.
Any creature deck.
Aggro deck,
Any creature deck. We just don't run enough creatures, and I don't need to focus on Ashiok, really. I have no need to. Same thing with sort of Jace. I mean, it shuts down half the damage of Ashcelt and Chandra's Phoenix and Mutavault, which is good. But at the same time, I'm not going to direct my attacks at it. So if, the control decks are running for Jace, a lot of times they'll have a Jace that they're either building up or putting down, and I'm not attacking it. So you might have a hand with 2 more Jaces in it or something, and you can't play any of them. I'm sure that happens sometimes. You get bunched up on one Planeswalker, because, they're all like legends. So, Kiora also is in that list. Not that good against me. I think I'm not really scared of Planeswalkers too much with the burn deck.
It's a really big problem for me.
Yeah, I can really direct my spells at the player and never really have to redirect. So I definitely felt like I had the edge in that match. You have Elixir of Immortality, so you pretty much have to play it as soon as you get it because you don't want to worry about Skullcrack once again. I think it's a tough match for you.
Oh, it is, yeah. It's that one is one that I dread. Yeah, anything this style of play because this is the style that I'm not ready to play against. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you
And
can handle creatures much more easily than I can handle spells.
we'll talk about some of the changes you're going to make to try and battle against
Mm-hmm.
decks similar to this. But I ended up beating Jake 2-0, and then in top 8 I played against Black Red Aggro, and this is a list that's running stuff like Stormbreath Dragon, Exava, Mogus's Marauders, Spike Jester, Rakdos Cackler, Magma Jet, Painseer, Hero's Downfall. This list also kind of just getting popular recently, it seems like. This one's a little bit different because of the Painseers, which I don't really like in the list, but it's quick deck. It's very quick. It's very efficient. It builds up. It's got big threats mid to late game. So even if you can take care of the early threats, I don't know if you necessarily can deal with the Stormbreaths or the Exavas. So it's a cool list. Against us, its best tool against the burn deck is Whip of Erebus out of sideboard, and I was just able to shut that off with the Skullcrack as well. He got me one game. I mulled to 6 and kept a 1-lander. That was a Temple.
Well,
I just felt like it was worth it,
Yeah.
but it definitely was punished. I ended up getting punished hard for that keep, so I should have mulled to 5. Lesson learned on that one. Yeah, I don't think it was a keep. I think you have to go to 5.
it's tough. You want to take the Temple land though.
You do. It was tough, but I ended up the Searing Blood's just come up huge in that match because he's running Cacklers and Painseers and Spike Jesters and Marauders.
So much that dies to it. Yeah.
Yep. And you can't really sideboard out of all of them. The deck's also doing Herald of Torment, which isn't even that great against us. You know, especially if I bring in Wear and Tear to stop the whip that he's sideboarding in. I can also alternatively kill the...
Oh yeah, Herald.
And we talked about how we can kill both.
Yeah.
Because whip is an artifact.
And
Herald's an
during
enchantment.
upkeep too, so he can't even activate the whip.
And
he
he
loses
loses
a
a
life.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like it a lot. I think it's really good. And Wear and Tear, also good in that match. So I beat him 2-1, and then we did a top 4 split. So deck's been, this is the second week in a row. I think it's performed very well for me. I'm very much like the white-red burn deck. I kind of wish I'd played that at the PTQ instead, but I just wasn't in on it as well then. This deck is great, though, for avoiding the Bioblights and the Drowning Sorrows, which was really punishing my last deck. I think this deck is extremely well geared in the meta right now. I like it a lot. I think it's a great deck. And you don't have to worry about going to time and tourneys. It's pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, that's sweet.
All right. Jake, you want to talk about your matches or maybe some deck changes?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing Planeswalker Control again. I went back to, like I said last time, I was going to go back to more of the white-blue version and cut the black down again. I left in the Golgari Charm, but otherwise took out most of the other black stuff, like the 2 Bile Blights or 2 Drowning Sorrows, I forget how it was, and the Hero's Downfall. And I added an Elspeth in, and I'm trying to think of what else I added. I think I was down a Detention Sphere, so I put one of those back in, and I put in 2 Dissolves too. So that was pretty much the changes. My sideboard, I can't really remember what it was last time, but this is what I ran, except there was one other card I forgot, but I must not have played it at all because it was easily cut from my sideboard, and I don't have it in there right now, otherwise I would tell you what it was. But anyway, my first match was against Red White Burn, and I beat that 2-1. This is a more creature-based deck. He's playing Gutter Snipe, and he had Chandra's Phoenix, and he had Ash Zealot. Trying to think if he had Young Pyromancer this time. He's played it before. I don't think he had it in this time. But he definitely had the Gutter Snipe in. I think because that definitely added more damage, you know? So
Yeah, if you have enough burn
for him.
spells.
Yeah.
It's clunky. I think
it's-
that's my main issue with it.
Yeah, it's similar to your deck, what he was running. Because out of the board he brought in Sky Knight Legionnaires, you know, so he was bringing more haste against me. And that was cool. Like, it worked well for him. This is the same guy I played last week in the first round, and we drew, and he was playing basically the same deck. This time I was able to beat him, but he did get 1 game off me. There wasn't anything in particular that stands out as happening that was really amazing. I think he got mana screwed this week in one of our games, maybe the last one. Yeah, I think it was the last one. Was he hiccuped on his land, and I obviously was able to capitalize on that because I did not miss a land drop at all, and just was able to go Sphinx's Rev into whatever, And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, um, in round 2, I played black-white mid-range, and it was the same black-white mid-range guy that Alex played in round 3, and I beat him 2-1. We had a real good last game, and I actually milled him out in the last game, which was very satisfying because he attacked me. He had an Obsidat. He attacked me, and if I had any other card, it wouldn't have worked, but I had Aetherize in my hand. It was an Obsidat that he was attacking with, so I got to bounce his Obsidat, which was what he needed. He needed to hit me for that 5, and then blink it and have it come in during his upkeep so that he wouldn't draw out and die, because I was at 7.
I see.
So with the Aetherize, I was only at 3.
5 or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was able to deal 4 to me total instead of the 7.
Could he replay the Obsidian?
Yeah, but it was still not enough. He
see.
needed that 5 damage to hit me.
So you milled him out with an Ashiok, huh? Wow.
And Jace. I brought in Jace
Oh,
Memory
okay.
Adept onto the sideboard, so
Interesting.
I got 2, 4, or 10. So I got 20 of his cards off Jace before he killed it.
And then the rest were all
Ashiok.
long game and Ashiok, huh?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep, it was pretty. It was a really good match.
He has disruption for you
yeah.
too. He's got the duresses and the thoughts.
Yeah, in the second game, he ripped my hand apart, and then just I couldn't recover. And we've had this conversation before. I know we have, where I really criticize those like 1-for-1 hand disruption spells, but it's like they can be really good, or if your opponent draws like into more gas and you don't, they can be real like turds.
Yeah.
So
do nothing.
It's
Yeah.
totally dependent on how your opponent draws, but he was able to do it. But it takes away the chance, So, or it makes it more reliant on chance. So, to an extent, they're good, but I still can't really get behind them too much.
Just stopping the Sphinx's revelation, I think, is their main goal. If they can turn off your Sphinxes, they can at least go card to card with you and hope they draw better. And saying, because the control decks are much more land heavy, there's a chance they flood out a little bit easier, a little bit more.
True.
There's higher probability that they flood out than the
and hitting this
lower land decks.
Hitting the Sphinx up, because of that reason, is actually probably more relevant, because the Sphinx is so good to hit when you're flooded, So, anyway, in round 3, I played black-red aggro. This is a really terrible matchup for me. And then out of the sideboard, I didn't see any of my sideboard cards. But, this is the same black-red aggro deck that Alex played in the top 8 also. So he just has Spike Jesters, Pain Seers, and blah, blah, blah.
Should be red, white,
Oh, yeah.
right.
And then in round 4, I played against Alex. And he beat me, 0-2. It was also a really bad matchup for me. Like I said, or I don't know if I said it, I guess, but I'm a tap-out control style deck. So I don't necessarily want to be doing a ton of stuff on your turn. Maybe really late game I do, but I kind of need to get my planeswalkers out and establish an early control and then protect them for a couple turns before I can really start to grind out a win, And it really is grinding. That's what I have to do with this deck to win.
Yeah.
But I like the style of play personally. I know it can get annoying to play against, but I still really like control.
You need to. So, I talked about earlier sideboard stuff Jake's going to do to help gear up for the black-red aggro or red-white burn matches, since it looks like he played against a lot of it on Friday.
Well, and there were at least 2 other people who are running that style of deck beyond the 2 that I played against.
Okay.
So it's present in our meta and needs to be accounted for. So I'm going to be bringing in, what is it, Fiendslayer Paladin? Is that the card?
Yeah.
I've never played with it, and it's really good. So I'll be having that on my sideboard.
It's a
as
three.
a 3 of.
Yep, it's a 3-mana 2/2 first strike lifelink, and it can't be the target of red or black spells. So it's very good. It still dies to sweepers since it's not being targeted, but it's still very good against the burn deck. I can't Searing Blood it. I can't, lightning strike it. Anything like that.
I imagine against you anyway, I take out at least 2 Supreme Verdicts, so it becomes a little more relevant as not having to die to my own removal in that way, Against the black-red aggro deck, I probably want to leave in my Supreme Verdicts, but the Detention Spheres are still pretty irrelevant against that deck. And they're irrelevant against you for the most part, too. But Blind Obedience is very good against both of your decks.
Yeah, since it stops all my haste.
And it allows for Extort.
Which
so
can
there's
offset that.
Yeah, there's a small amount of life gain to be had there, too. So, all in all, to help protect myself against the red burn decks that are around, I'll also be taking out the Swan Song that's in my sideboard and adding a Dispel. I'll take out the Rapid Hybridization and the Vraska because those are also not good against burn decks or aggro decks. And I'll be putting in all 3 of the Fiendslayer Paladins since I'm 1 card short from what this sideboard is right now, I think.
Okay. Well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Like I think I told you at FNM, the main deck, the main cards that kill red, white, burn are stuff like Unflinching Courage with Hexproof, or just Unflinching Courage in general. Archangel of Thune, Fiendslayer Paladin, Blood Baron of Vizkopa, Obsidian, Whip of Erebus. So those are all big cards. Sphinx's Revelation too. Even though we have the out to it, if it's resolved, we don't have the Skullcrack. It's game changing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I do think Sphinx has to be for 3 or 4 though to really be relevant against you because it needs to cancel one of your spells,
Yep. I think you need it. It's
Yeah.
essential. It forces us to have the Skullcrack or at least hold it long enough to stop the life gain from Sphinxes. But getting those cards sometimes all you need. Dispel. Hard counters are good against burn. I talked about in the last couple weeks how the diversity of threats is why the red white burn deck is good because they have actual 12 creatures, the Phoenixes and the Ash Zealots, but then they have a ton of burn spells too. So it's like it makes the control player be like, how many Supreme Verdicts do I leave in? How many negates do I bring in? How many, So Dispel, very good against the burn deck, but Syncopate and Dissolve are also very good because at least you can target
everything. Yeah.
I think those are all the best tools to combat burn if you're control, I think. And maybe is Archangel doing 3/4? Or is it 3/5?
It is a 3/4.
Okay.
4/5, yeah.
So maybe that one's too pricey, but you could probably do Blood Baron. You could probably do Fiendslayer Paladin.
I like Fiendslayer Paladin personally
You can
because
try
it's
it.
cheap. Yeah.
Yep. I'm telling you though, Blood Baron is huge. Also, Obsidian is nothing. There's not a lot to do about Obsidian. I'm trying to renounce the guild's tech, but I don't think would bring it in against you. Even if you were running Obsidian, I think I don't like it enough.
My problem with Obsidian is it's double black, and I was trying to get away from the double of any color other than blue or white,
I see.
So Blood Baron makes more sense for my deck, and it's definitely a possibility as a sideboard card.
Yeah, I'd be open to it as like a one-up. It's really not that bad of an idea since it's so game flippy.
Yeah.
Even alongside the Fiend Slayers, you could totally make that work, I think. So yeah, that was you ended up 2-1-1.
Yeah, 2-1-1 overall. Or wait, no, 2-2. Yeah, that was my last week's thing.
So we went 2-2.
Yeah.
And didn't make top 8, unfortunately.
But it's okay. I was like, what place? 10th place. So I was still top 12 out of 26 people. It was fine. I'm not too upset about it. I know the deck is fine. It's just I played 2 of my worst matchups in a row.
Yep. So you have to make some sideboard swaps and prepare yourself a little bit better. See if it comes out better. All right. Shall we move on to Weird Harvest for the week? Weird Harvest. All right, Weird Harvest. This is the section of the Mortarpod where we talk about weird cards from the past. Now, we're not just talking about weirdly designed in terms of power, toughness, and abilities. We're talking about specifically name, picture, stuff like that. So this one comes to us from Mercadian Masks. It's Balloon Peddler. Peddling balloons. It's 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Spell Shaper, which were a creature type from Mercadian Masks.
Mm-hmm.
And they all had similar abilities. It involved 1 mana and then tapping and discarding a card, and then an ability.
Mm-hmm.
So this one's 2 and a blue, 2/2. A blue and tap and discard a card from your hand, and you can give a creature flying until end of turn. So this card's a little bit ridiculous because it's called Balloon Peddler, and flavorfully what it's trying to do is very weird.
Well, all of the spell shapers
Were weird
were
in general.
flavored with this. You are paying them to do something for you. They're basically like a task mage. That's the idea of discarding a card from your hand.
I see.
Is like you're giving them something in exchange for the one thing that they can do. You know?
Okay.
This one is funny though because it gives a creature flying until end of turn. You know, and it's just like, so you're just handing them a balloon, really. It doesn't make sense when you think of that creature then is able to block or attack, when in the art you're showing someone just haphazardly floating away, you know, because they have a balloon.
That's a good point. They wouldn't be as effective as in a warrior if they were just floating around on a balloon they were holding onto with their hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a weird ornate balloon, too. It's got like weird tassels on it and stuff.
It's, I don't know.
They could have done better than balloon. I think.
And the other thing is they're showing a child being lifted away. I mean, everything about this is just
very weird.
Yeah,
very
it's not
bizarre.
really making it seem like there's an advantage when you're giving someone flying, you know. Now, if it were like target
Mechanical
creature gains
wings
flying
or something.
and it can't block creatures with flying, or accept creatures with flying until end of turn, something where it was like you can make it so that one of your opponent's creatures couldn't block all of your other creatures too, you know, then it would be like at least it would have a little more flavor to it and possibly a little more relevance. But as it is, and I think mechanical wings is definitely the way to go.
It's a little goofy doing balloons. I mean,
I think Wingcrafter definitely did it right from Avacyn Restored.
Yeah, that was a great limited card too, and that was a soul bond flying, and it was human too, I think too. So, yeah.
Yeah, but my other criticism, I guess, is that Spell Shaper is a creature type instead of just an ability word, where it kind of like is domain. It could have just been Spell Shape.
Yeah,
Blue,
that's true.
This
is old school though, so this is when they were still.
Yeah, they didn't even do domain, or like they didn't have ability words like domain or anything for. I don't know. Was it Threshold was like the first time they did it? I think it was Threshold. But yeah. Anyway, this card. Well,
it's
probably
It's like you're not really spell shaping anything if you're just peddling a balloon. It's not even like flavorfully correct. It's not even flavorfully correct for what its creature type is.
Yeah, it could have been like Cloudcaster or something like that, which would make it seem like
a spell.
But none of them do. I mean, Waterfront Bouncer is like the unsummoned guy.
Or it could have been like light, making you light as a feather or something, giving you weightlessness. That would have actually been a spell.
Actually, Gravity Inverter or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
but Balloon Peddler, it's like it's just the mere audacity of how simple it is to like make somebody fly with a balloon, and that's worthy of a card in your hand too.
The other thing is it should be like discard an artifact card or something like that, where it's a little more specific to give you the materials to create a balloon. Then
that would have been way too narrow. But I guess it would have made more flavorful sense.
You're right though. Balloon Peddler just doesn't make sense, and it should have been like. It should have been more either mechanical wings or magical wings or something. Making you weightless would have been a good one.
Take that, Wizards. What do you think of that? Well, I don't think they're going to be...
About Gravity Thief?
They're not going to be reprinting Balloon Peddler anytime soon. So.
No, I don't think they're hell-bent on bringing that one back.
They're not going to dust that one
off.
All right, well, I think that's going to be it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Still liking my standard deck. It's performing well. Jake and I are hoping to do a Mirage block draft while they still have it online. I guess the Lions Eye Diamonds online are going for like 120 tickets, something crazy like that. And last time we did a Mirage draft for Seems Good Magic, we ended up getting screwed in the finals by a bug.
Phasing glitch.
Yeah.
It drove me nuts. Makes me upset just thinking about it.
Yeah, we can tell the story quickly. He had a Breeze Keeper, which is a, I believe, 4-mana 4/4 flyer, and it has phasing.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what phasing is, it's every other upkeep it phases out, which means any auras attached to it are also phased out, and it's kind of like Exile, but different in that it's not actually being.
Exist.
Yeah.
It no longer exists while it's phased out, and then it phases in before your next turn, at the beginning of your next turn before you untap.
So anyway, what happened was we had Pacifism, so we cast Pacifism on the Breeze Keeper, and when it phased out, it successfully phased out with the Pacifism also being exiled. But what happened was on his turn, when it phased back in, it didn't bring back the Pacifism attached to it until our turn, and then it phased it back in. So the glitch was it wasn't phasing in at the proper time in the worst possible way. We were still getting hit by the Breeze Keeper.
Right. It was like the worst glitch it could have been ever. Basically.
For us.
Yeah.
Did not benefit.
So obnoxious.
Yeah. So I had to file a bug request and get a refund. And they were even stingy about that, which was really irritating.
Yeah.
Since we made it to the finals, we were subject to get some prizes. So they only refunded us what we weren't getting like whatever the starting fee of a draft is, whatever we got from our prizes. Yeah. Starting fee of draft minus our prizes is what we got. So it was 2 tickets for like 35 minutes of paperwork. It was very obnoxious. They should have hooked me up a lot more, I think. I was upset about it. Just
giving you a free draft would have been
a draft set is not asking for too much.
I just want to say this. I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, you're already making some money on paper Magic. Otherwise, why would you be doing it? You're already making money on Magic Online. If your Magic Online customer has a problem, you should maybe be willing to give them a little more free product, since the product is literally completely free to give out.
It's digital content, and they were stingy with their digital content, especially after I clarified, gave them the game number. They looked at the game number, saw that there was clearly a glitch, and they only refunded me 2 tickets. So I was very frustrated with that. I thought they could have been a little more, I don't know, forthcoming with some. Yeah,
I just don't understand. It's
why
not
they
too
have
much
to be
to
so
ask
stingy.
to
It's really
give a little more on that, but whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah, hopefully at least they fixed it, because that would be really frustrating if we lost the same way.
That'd piss you off. That'd piss me off, really.
I would not be cool if we lost the same way. But all right, that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to check out the Seems Good Magic card giveaway series. This week, giving away Angel of Serenity, so that's always exciting. Big Mythic and Standard. Make sure to check out Born of the Gods drafts, Randy's Cube drafts, all of that good, weird, wild stuff. All right, we'll see you guys next week.